From Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Tia Graham. Happy primary election day.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Today on the show, we reflect on the place WDET calls home.
That's right, Robin. Detroit's Cass Corridor has stories hidden in its walls. Mike Targus is bringing them to life on film.
We'll hear about the premiere of Detroit Boy and the voices behind it.
Plus, we'll trace the rhythmic roots of gospel music and the Detroit soil that's helped cultivate its growth.
Also, smoky skies from Canadian wildfires are clouding Michigan's air.
We'll learn how to protect our health and adapt as the effects of climate change intensify.
But first, bipartisan bills are stuck in legislative gridlock in both the Michigan House and Senate. Since the legislative term started in January, only 6 bills have been passed and landed on Governor Whitmer's desk. Now, that's despite lawmakers introducing hundreds of bills. So what's going on? Joining me now to help understand the gridlock in Lansing are 2 reporters from Gongwer News Service who've been following this closely. Elena Dernbaugh covers the Republican-led Michigan House, and Nick Smith covers the Democrat-led Michigan Senate. They co-reported a piece last week that gives us a window into what appears to be a dysfunctional state legislature. Elena, Nick, welcome to the Metro.
Hello.
Morning.
So your reporting last week had some striking statistics. The Senate has passed 145 bills, and the Republican-led House has only taken up 3 of them. The picture, it's only slightly better on the other side. The House has passed 152 bills, with 21 of those taken up by the Senate. That seems dysfunctional, but I think we need some context here. Elena, how bad is the gridlock in Lansing compared to, say, what we could consider a typical legislative session?
Oh, my goodness. I would say that dysfunctional is very accurate. This is not a typical session at all. The 6 bills that have been passed have all been passed on a tight deadline. And as we reported, we're just not seeing action in either chamber. Bills are being passed from the House and being left to sit in the Senate, and the same from the Senate.
So we are seeing the effects of a divide in Lansing. Democrats control the Senate, Republicans control the House. Any bills that make it to Governor Whitmer's desk will have meant the chambers actually worked across the aisle. So how many of these bills could be considered bipartisan?
I mean, there are plenty of bills that both chambers could pass. In our reporting, we looked at a democratically sponsored bill in the Senate and a Republican-sponsored bill in the House that are essentially the same bill. They would allow alcohol sales at Macomb Community College. They have both passed their respective chambers, but the House hasn't taken up the Senate bill, and the Senate hasn't taken up the House bill. And we talked to those bill sponsors, and they were like, yeah, I mean, there's gridlock, and maybe someday we'll get that bill passed.
Let's focus on the bill that is allowing Macomb Community College to obtain a liquor license for events, as you just mentioned. So there has been some cooperation between some officials working across the aisle and across chambers. State Senator Paul Wono, a Democrat from Warren, and or Woino, I should say, a Democrat from Warren, and Representative Joe Aragona, a Republican from Clinton Township, seem to agree on this bill. But the Democrat-led Senate hasn't taken the bill up. I mean, why would something that seems like a relatively frictionless bill get stuck? What's going on?
So I really think that a lot of the rank and file members would tell you that what goes up on the board depends on leadership, and leadership isn't putting either of those bills up on the board in either chamber, which means they cannot pass both chambers and get to the governor's desk. So I think what we are seeing is that while there may be agreement on some policy, there are political struggles between Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks and House Speaker Matt Hall, and neither is willing to blink first.
Nick, I want to bring you into the conversation here because we are hearing the name Winnie Brinks, the Senate Majority Leader. What are you seeing at the Senate when it comes to leadership?
Well, Leader Brinks is trying to take more of a methodical approach, more of a traditional approach to the process. They're trying to keep their heads down, just be able to go through the normal process. They passed their full budget earlier this spring, and with the breakdown in the relationship between her and Speaker Hall, they're basically just waiting for each other to come to the table. They've been pointing fingers quite a bit, accusing each other of either them and their other members of leadership of stonewalling the budgetary process. So she has been taking a little bit more of a lower profile approach to this, while Hall has obviously been front and center, having weekly press conferences, making accusations against the Democrats as them being the obstructionists. It's really been a bit of a personality clash at this point.
I want to dig in a little bit more to some of the bills that I think are worth noting here, particularly FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act bills passed by the Senate, and they would get Michigan on par with most other states, making the legislature and governor's office subject to FOIA laws. But they have exemptions. House Majority Leader Matt Hall has called those bills watered down. Elena, what's going on there?
Yeah, Speaker Hall has made it pretty clear that he has no intention to pass the FOIA bills passed by the Senate earlier this year. He says that there are better ways to increase government transparency. He refers frequently to his HEAT plan, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan, but that's legislation like preventing lawmakers from going directly from being an elected official into becoming a lobbyist, some of the reforms we've seen on earmark legislation, and other measures that he says they are better for government transparency than the FOIA laws passed by the Senate.
I have to ask you, Elena, as a reporter, as someone who is focused on transparency and the public's right to know, what do you think about those statements?
Well, I know there have been times where I have looked at a situation and said, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could FOIA emails about this process or this bill? Too bad the legislature isn't subject to FOIA. But, you know, what goes up on the board is above my pay grade.
Okay, what about road funding? I mean, we can't talk about state governance and budgeting without talking about the damn roads. There are a lot of lanes to maintain, and it seems we can never get ahead of the issue. Nick, how has road funding come up in this session, which really is the legislative equivalent of bumper-to-bumper traffic?
Yeah, this is another example where the two sides are just pretty far apart. Obviously, Speaker Hall put out his own plan earlier this session. The governor followed suit shortly after with a little more center-left, democratically designed plan. In the Senate, they just have not publicly come out with a plan, which has drawn some fire from Republicans. And also, on top of that, they want to be, the Democrats in the Senate want to be able to do everything as a package deal, that along with the budget and just with roads, housing, roads, the budget, everything. On the House side, they wanted to try to get a deal done before summer along with education. That was unable to come through. The Democrats in the Senate believe they can do everything at once. They don't want to they don't want to take a lot of the funding away to be able to deal with roads and schools and not have enough of a pot of money to do the rest of the budget. They would probably be giving a significant amount of ground to the House Republicans if they were to do the budget piecemeal.
You're listening to The Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent, and I'm joined by two Capitol reporters from Gongwer News Service. Elena Dernbaugh covers the Michigan House, and Nick Smith covers the Michigan Senate. They co-reported a piece last week that paints a picture of a gridlocked and dysfunctional state legislature. We're trying to get down to the bottom of that. So national politics, it's become state politics pretty quickly. I mean, President Trump has effectively reduced the role of several government agencies and the funding that goes with them. And the idea is to put more power in the hands of the states. It's classic conservative Republican ideology. Given the gridlock we're seeing, how will Michigan's state government handle the changes coming from the Trump administration? Elena, I'll turn to you on this.
I mean, that's really going to be a challenge as we come up on this budgetary process, or as we're going through this budgetary process. States are going to lose a lot of funding for programs like Medicaid, and we're going to have to figure out how to find that in the budget. And this is while still, in theory, funding things that Michigan does, like the free breakfast and lunch that we instituted into the state budget, and both Democrats and Republicans have said is a good thing. But if you have to backfill federal money that we're not getting anymore, where does that money come from? Plus another $3 billion for this roads plan that at least some people in Lansing want.
Yeah, I mean, so in other words, the state budget is looking really uncertain, and we're seeing this in states throughout the country that are having to cut millions or even $1 billion from their budget because of the Trump new budget law. And reporting from your colleague at Gongwer, Lily Ginny revealed that the state budget office is asking for revised budgets for the coming fiscal year. Budget director Jen Flood confirmed to Gongwer the state is working on contingency plans. Is there any more you can say about how this uncertainty is affecting the legislative gridlock that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, departments were asked to prepare budgets that had anywhere between 15% and some departments higher in cuts. And this is in part due to negotiations between Senate Democrats and House Republicans. House Republicans are hoping for a budget that is much slimmer than it has been. They have repeatedly said there won't be an $83 billion budget. It's going to be much smaller. And realistically, the state will probably have to face some cuts due to the federal cuts. So it's part of the gridlock is, what do you keep and what do you cut? And when you have Democrats leading the Senate and Republicans leading the House, they're going to have different ideas on what needs to stay and what needs to go.
Right. And it seems that they have some different ideas on whether this is a gridlock moment or not. Can you just speak to that before we let you go?
I think that it has become increasingly clear that this is gridlock. We're hearing more and more people from both the Senate and the House, Democrats and Republicans, looking ahead to the high likelihood of a government shutdown at the end of September. Budget negotiations are not moving forward. We're not seeing policy bills move. Something's got to break, and the solution might end up being turning off the government and turning it back on again.
Elena Dernbaugh covers the Michigan House, and Nick Smith covers the Michigan Senate for Gongwer News Service. Thank you both so much for your reporting and for joining us on the Metro.
Thank you.
Paul Whelan was detained and imprisoned in Russia for 5 years. He's been back in Michigan for 1 year now, but getting resettled has been a real challenge. We'll hear about that next here on the Metro. Stay with us.